We're sisters, best friends, and authors on a mission to help you stoke your creative fire and live the life of your dreams. We believe that purpose fuels passion and that creativity is your secret weapon for mass construction. There's never been a better time to bless the world with your dream realized. You're listening to The Kate and Abbie Show.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Kate and Abbie Show. Today, we have an exciting topic for you, which is how to build the ultimate writing routine in 5 ways. So we're going to break this down and chat about how we can find unique, clear triggers that work for each of us in our own unique way that will leave us feeling inspired and ready to write all day long and stoked to get back into writing the next day. Routines are different for everyone. We are firm believers in that. There's no one magic routine by some billionaire on YouTube set to inspirational music that if we all follow it, we'll all have the perfect life. We believe that routines are unique to each person. So this is more of a springboard to give you ideas to explore yourself. So we're going to get into how we can start on this journey. But first,
we have to thank our sponsors, who are you guys. You're the ones who support this show and keep it going, and we so appreciate your support. So if you get value out of this podcast, go to patreon.com/The Kate and Abbie Show and help us keep this show alive and free of interruptions.
So, building a routine. I'm not a very routine-oriented person. Abbie seems you're pretty into routines.
Yeah.
So we're coming at this from 2 opposite sides of the spectrum. So this is going to be really fun because I feel like a lot of you guys out there listening aren't into routines and a lot of you guys are into routines. So we have 2 unique perspectives coming together here. So you can find what works for you. You'll be able to hear each of our perspectives on this. So first, don't get mentally cluttered before you sit down to write. Leave distractions at the door. So I think for a lot of us, especially in this modern age, we get distracted by everything, and social media and the internet and television and all these things are really put out there for the purpose of grabbing our attention. Advertisements, commercials, all these things are vying for your attention. Media is vying for your attention. Social media is vying for your attention. Thousands of things every day are vying for our attention. And we need to be intentional about what we consume so that we can be inspired to create. Because I think when we sit down with heads filled with all this junk we've collected on the internet and on TV, it's like, our heads aren't clear. We don't have a clear, concise headspace to create from.
Yeah. That's definitely step 1 for me whenever I know I'm going to have a writing day, is to make sure that I have prepared myself mentally to not have that clutter. Even something as small as, going on a social media app for a few minutes, it's just unnecessary clutter that even if it's good, even if they're just good posts that you see in your feed or whatever the case may be, it still is a distraction, and it's still putting something into your mental space that you don't want to get out of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like whatever you put in is what you get out.
Well, that's because that's what it's designed for. And the thing is social media, and I really want to make more videos talking about this on my YouTube channel. It's not good or bad. It is a completely neutral thing. Okay. So it's designed to keep you looking at it. Just like you write a book so that people will continue reading it. Well, Instagram designed itself so that you'll keep scrolling and looking at photos or videos or whatever it is they do on there now. So that's what these apps are designed for. Now, it can be used for great purposes. It can share wonderful, inspiring content. And within that correct context, it's good. But when we get into these toxic loops of we're now addicted to looking at social media, we can't put our phones down. We can't, have lunch with someone without looking at our phone every second. Now we're like, okay, we're kind of addicted to looking at social media now. So there's a definitely a healthy, wonderful way to use it. And there's also toxic ways to use it. So like anything, it's a neutral thing. It's about what we do with it that makes it quote unquote good or bad. Yeah. So I think, like you were just saying, we have to be careful when we're starting on our writing routine of clearing our minds. And in fact, do something if you like writing later in the day and you're like, well, I've already consumed a bunch of social media or television or whatever, do something to clear your head. Go for a walk, do some deep breathing, do the Wim Hof method, do a yoga practice, do something that just completely relaxes your mind and calms your soul. In fact, I have a video on my YouTube channel, shameless plug, that's a 5-minute positive affirmations for writers. And I designed this video specifically so it was quick, concise, and it calms you down and gets you in the right writing headspace. I've had a lot of writers tell me that they like it and it helps them write better. So do something that clears your mind, whatever that is. Find something that clears your head. Try not to clutter your headspace before you sit down to be creative, because I think we connect with ourselves on a creative level the most when we don't have all this stuff going on inside our heads.
Yeah, you're also more, I think, in giving mode or like an outpouring mode rather than a receiving mode. If you wake up in the morning, let's say you're going to write first thing after you wake up, and you don't take in a lot of information, you're more in the headspace, at least I find in my experience, I'm more in the headspace to give out and to create something rather than to consume. And social media, like you were saying, and our phones and the internet is designed to make us into mindless consumers, right, really, of content, whatever happens to be showing up in front of us. But what you see and what shows up in front of you does not have to take your attention. Like, you do not have to engage with whatever shows up in front of you. And that could even be in your own house, in your own environment. If you wake up in the morning and maybe the people you live with, whether it's your family or a roommate or something, is having a negative conversation or a negative discussion or just giving off negative vibes, you do not have to sit there and listen to it. If it's making you feel mentally cluttered, you can leave the room. You can go for a walk. You can go into a nice quiet space and meditate, or listen to Katie's affirmations video and put yourself in a positive headspace. Don't let things just happen to you and feel like, oh, this threw me off because I had to listen to this person being negative, or, oh, I got distracted looking at the news or at social media. Like that, those things don't have to distract you. You can choose to make your headspace clean and clutter free, and that feels so much different. I find that it feels so much different when I sit down to write if I have not been engaging with much of anything, kind of a clean slate.
Same.
And you approach creativity in a whole different way. It's like a blank page rather than all of this stuff floating around in your mind.
You can hear your own thoughts clearer.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you don't have 100 other people's thoughts in your head.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Second on the list is figure out what time of day you enjoy writing the most. So I think for some of us, we're not even sure yet. And that's totally okay too. You could enjoy writing at multiple times of day. But I think for a lot of us, at least for me personally on my own journey, there's a certain time of day that I just feel more creative. And that for me personally is first thing in the morning. Before I've really done anything at all, I like to have a cup of coffee, a little bit of spiritual time, and then get right into writing. And that's the extent of what I like to do before I write, almost nothing. So I think everyone has a unique time that they enjoy writing at. Like, what is it for you? You enjoy writing in the morning mostly.
Yeah, I've really grown to enjoy.
We write a lot
morning
together, so
well, because it's awesome being self-employed and having the ability to choose writing days where you can write all day long and to work on a writing project. Just focus in on that and get a lot of work done on a writing project. And if it's a good writing day, if it ends up being really inspired, I think you can relate to this too. I can just go all day.
Yeah, same.
Until someone's like, hey, are you ever going to stop doing that? And then you look up and you realize it's like 8:00 at night.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Those are the best writing days.
Yeah.
And if you get an early start, then you can get a lot done. And so then it feels even more productive.
Right.
But if that's not available to you, or if you have to work during the morning hours or during the day, then finding another time that can feel like all your own, I think is important. Not like, I'm just trying to cram this in, but giving yourself the space that you need, both in time and in actual space.
Yes.
Space time, to write and to work on those writing projects.
Right. And I think some people too, especially if you're working a job, nighttime can be a good time to write, or early in the morning. Both of those, I've heard a lot of busy moms, dads, people who are working a job, perhaps trying to merge over into a writing career, writing in the early hours of the morning or at night. And I think there's something kind of magical about that. I've always wanted to be someone who could write at night. I always think of, like, this is probably silly, but like those images on like YouTube that are those playlists that are lo-fi, like, oh, it's a, twilight in Tokyo, and it's like someone writing by a window. I'm like, that looks so magical. I wish that could be me, but I never really feel like writing at night. But there's something a little bit special about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
That's
funny.
just the mental image I get.
It's funny because sometimes I feel like writing at night, and lately I've been trying to not write at night because I've been trying to like relax more and have a better sleeping pattern. But first thing in the morning, really early in the morning, is also feels like that. Like before dawn is a really cool time to write. I usually can't wake up that early because I'm just like can't function. But sometimes I wake up strangely early before dawn and I'm like, I want to go write and just like sit and light a candle and drink tea.
That's so cool.
It's a cool feeling for sure.
That is really cool. Yeah, so I think figure out what makes you feel inspired. Or if you're feeling in a writing rut, not super creative, try something different. Try getting up really early, lighting a candle and making yourself a cup of tea and writing, and see if that makes you feel better. Like, sometimes it can literally be as simple as that.
Yeah.
Change it up. Sometimes routine gets old, and you can actually make a routine of changing up your routine.
Yeah, that's another thing that I think is important to mention. I've talked about this on my channel before, is routines. I do not believe that a routine should be something that you stick with forever ad infinitum. I think it should be something that changes with new seasons of life. So if you're going through, and by seasons of life, I don't mean seasons like spring, fall, summer. I mean, anytime that you feel you're entering a new season of life, you probably need a new routine to change things up. And that's okay. To me, that is so much more freeing to start a new routine and not have to commit to this has to be what I do all the time forever. Because that feels so constricting and just
that can
not
make it much
creative.
more daunting.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, do I like it enough to do it forever? No. Do you like it enough to do it for right now?
Yeah, and then your needs will change, and that's okay.
Which takes us into our next one, number 3 on the list, which is creating a ritual around your writing. So when you're getting ready to write, maybe have a few things you do ahead of time, whether it's finding a really cozy nook, making yourself a cup of tea, lighting a candle, choosing a soundtrack. Find a few clear triggers that help to get you into the writing zone. And I think those will be different for everyone. I think creating a really cozy, lovely space to write in can be a wonderful trigger and something that makes it much easier to get into the writing zone. We actually just did a podcast last week. If you didn't listen to it, go check it out when you're done this one, about how to have a writing retreat at home and how to feel really inspired doing that, some fun tips for that. We talked a lot about creating a wonderful writing nook, finding an area where you won't be disturbed, where you can be creative and write without a bunch of interruptions. So I think having those triggers can be wonderful, and it'll be different for everyone. Whether it's making a cup of tea, for me it's making a cup of coffee, lighting a candle, doing a few things that just feel really good.
Yeah. And I loved how you said in the last episode, making it so that it's easier to do it than to not do it.
Right.
Because as we know, our minds follow a path of least resistance.
Yes.
And so if you make it really easy and really inviting and welcoming to sit down in your cozy space and start writing, that is going to just be rocket fuel, creative rocket fuel for your writing day. And that is something that a lot of people don't take the time to do, which is kind of sad. Right. But once you do take the time to do it, and it doesn't take a lot of time, it can be something very simple, like making a cup of tea, lighting a candle, making a cozy space, or even having, I really like Himalayan salt lamps. Give the same vibe sort of as a candle, except they don't give off any fumes, which is nice. They actually give off negative ions that help your mood and help relax you. So those are cool. And anything that can romanticize and make your space and your day more cozy and to feel like you are doing something really special for yourself.
Yeah, because you are. You are doing something special for yourself and for others. This book is going to be a wonderful project. You're going to enjoy it. And it's going to bless other people ultimately. So it's all around a good thing.
Yeah.
So make it fun. Find ways to make it fun and not a laborious task on your list.
Yes.
So find what helps to get you into the writing zone. Find a few clear triggers and create a ritual out of it. Number 4 on the list, which is a great one going off of what we just talked about, which is don't overcomplicate it and don't overthink it. I think some of us can get stuck on like, okay, I have to do all these things and oh, now I need to do a little more. And what if this isn't good enough? And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now our writing time is actually getting eaten up because we're overthinking it way too much.
There's definitely like a happy medium there. There's a fine line between creating a good ritual that will inspire you and focusing so much on the routine itself that you don't actually get to the writing time, which was what you were supposed to do.
Yes.
Like you see it with the example that comes to mind for me is people who want to work out more and they go to the gym. So they get the gym membership, they buy like all of these new workout clothes and like all the accessories and get all of the right apps on their phone, the right music, the right headphones that won't slip off your head when you're sweating. And then you never actually get to the point where you are actually sweating listening to your music in the gym because you're so focused on
getting ready
other
for
stuff. Yeah, you're so focused on getting ready for it that you never actually do the thing. When you more efficiently could have done the thing actually if you had just stayed home with no workout equipment and watched a no equipment workout video on your phone and did it with no equipment and no accessories.
Exactly. So keep it minimal.
It's like you don't need the routine to do the thing.
Yeah.
But a routine can help.
Right. But be intentional about those things. Don't make it like a laundry list of stuff. Find a few things, but keep it a few things. Don't make it like 12 things you have to do before you write, and then it takes you an hour to sit down and write. Just find a few things that are very simple. Yeah. Less is definitely more.
Yeah.
And I talk about this a lot because I make videos about minimalism and how you can apply that to your creative career. But I think that as we continue to examine our creative lives and what actually makes us feel creative, we'll find that it's not things. It's really not a bunch of things. It's not stuff we have to go buy. It's not a bunch of things we have to do. It's really only a couple of things that make us feel truly alive and stoked to create. So we don't have to pile too many things on top of that ritual. We can really keep it simple and be intentional about how we're curating that.
Yeah. That's definitely important.
Knowing when to stop. This is the 5th and final step. Knowing when to stop before you get bored or burnt out so that you are stoked to get back into it the next day. This is something I don't hear very many writers talk about. And I think it's so important. Me and Abbie have had so many conversations about it. Is don't write until you feel like I've got nothing left. I feel burnt out and tired. That'd be like every time you work out until you're ready to pass out of exhaustion. You're so sore that you can't get out of bed for days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's counterproductive.
That would not be a good thing. You're better off working out in moderation and continuing to slowly build muscle, right? That's what a lot of fitness trainers will tell you is good for you. And that's because it's just generally true. To do something to an extreme so that you are exhausted afterwards usually is not the best way to go about something. And the same goes for your writing. So when you're writing and you feel inspired and you're enjoying yourself, you're getting words out and it feels good, cool. That's great. What I do is I stop writing before I feel that feeling of I've got nothing left. I have to stop writing because I feel exhausted and out of ideas. I try to stop on a high note. And I always think of training with my sensei. Usually we stop on whatever the best technique I did was. So if I do a combination and he says, that was your best one, let's stop on that one, because that keeps it fresh in your mind. And next time we come back to it, that's the last thing that was in your head was that great one you just did. So I think the same thing can be applied to really many things in life, but especially with your writing and creative career. Stop on a high note. Don't stop on I don't know where I'm going with this. Hopefully this is good enough. That's not a good place to stop, because then for the rest of the day and at night when you're not able to sleep, you're going to be thinking about that moment of, hopefully this is good and comes together because I'm not so sure about this. You don't want to return to it on that note. You want to return to it excited. I can't wait to get back into writing. Well, what creates that feeling? Ending on a high note. Ending with a good feeling in your gut about your book. And that's what will get you back into it the next day.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's something that I learned from you when we were talking about it. And that's something I never did until we talked about it that time. And then I started doing it. And it's so helpful.
Yeah, it really does help.
You can always write more, but will you enjoy writing more? And will it make you feel inspired to pick it up again? If not, then you know intuitively when to stop, when you will feel proud of what you've done and excited to go back into it the next day. And for me, that sometimes it feels like unsatisfying because you're like, I wanted to write more of it, but it's actually better that way because you're not pushing yourself too hard. But you can still feel satisfied with what you wrote and have another great writing day the next day because you set yourself up for success.
It's a great way to prevent burnout.
Yeah.
Because what burnout is you are giving it your all until you have nothing left over and over and over again until it becomes actually like kind of this chronic feeling that you can't get out of, that every day you feel tired because you're creatively and mentally depleting yourself without taking the time to refill. So I think that stopping before you feel completely empty creatively can be a wonderful way to continue to nourish yourself mentally.
Yeah.
Because you're not giving it 100% of your mental energy. You're stopping before that so that you can be excited about it the next day.
Right. Yeah. And even if it's not, even if you don't write a ton of words, that's okay. Like even if you wrote just a little bit or a few pages or something and you think to yourself, I wish I'd written more today, that doesn't mean that you should write more, because sometimes it's better to write less quantity wise and have it be higher quality and have it feel really good. I've had all different types of writing processes when it depends on what kind of book I'm writing and if I'm challenging myself to do something like NaNoWriMo, or if I'm writing something more slow paced, and the writing process will be completely different and both will feel good in their own way. And it's okay to take your time and write slowly. Don't feel like, the only way to be a real writer is I have to write a lot of words every day, or I have to write quickly, or get a first draft done in 2 weeks or 30 days or whatever the case may be. It's okay to take your time at your own pace, write until you feel satisfied and you feel happy with what you've done, and leave a little bit so that you feel excited to get into it again.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's so true, and a wonderful way to create a writing routine that's going to last.
Yeah.
And that will carry you further and further into your writing career and pursuing your dreams as a writer.
Yeah.
So I think this list has given you guys some great ideas. Just to recap, not getting mentally cluttered, leaving distractions at the door, finding better ways to do that meet your needs, figuring out what time of day you enjoy writing the most, how that fits in with your schedule, when you feel most creative, creating a ritual around your writing, whether that's making tea, lighting a candle, choosing a soundtrack. Find some clear triggers that get you into the writing zone quickly, and don't overcomplicate it. Don't overthink it. Don't make it a laundry list of things that you need to do before you write. Keep it clear, concise, but effective for you and your unique journey. And lastly, knowing when to stop, which is before you get bored or burnt out, so that you're stoked to get back into it the next day. So I hope these things got you guys stoked to write and to create an amazing writing ritual. And remember, it's unique to each person. There's no one way to do it that suits everybody. Everybody's different. Everybody has unique needs. So this is a springboard for you guys to get creative with. And we would love to hear what you would add to this list. So head over to the video version of this podcast if you're listening on another platform, and comment below on the video and tell us what you would add to this list. The video version's available on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/kemmons. And of course, thank you to our sponsors.
Yes, thank you guys so much for supporting this show and keeping it going. We so appreciate your support. If you get value out of this podcast, go to patreon.com/The Kate and Abbie Show and help us keep this show alive and free of interruptions. Until next week,
Stay stoked
and rock on.